Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. In case you're new here, my name is Maren
and I'm Maureen.
Yeah, so in today's episode we're going to be reacting to a video that has been going viral on the internet.
Yeah, and this video is of a British person who has his citizenship in South Africa. It is what he said and what he plans to do to South Africa that made South Africans go crazy.
So he plans to divide South Africa, but South Africans are not having this. A lot of South Africans have come on the internet to react differently. They're even calling for his deportation. But before we say anything further, let's not just watch the video and listen carefully to what he has to say, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
This video is about why it's in the best interest of the Western Cape people to control their own borders. My name is Phil Craig and I'm the leader of the Referendum Party. We are fighting for a referendum on Cape independence which will place the Western Cape people in charge of their own destiny.
No, the Cape is ours.
Yeah, it's our yard, and if you don't like it, leave. Well, who's he talking to? The people of the Western Cape. This is our home. We belong here. Many of us have been here for generations and generations and generations. Many of us are the indigenous people of the region. And we're asking for all people, regardless of their race, religion and culture, to have this vote to say, do we want to stay in South Africa or not? So when you're saying it's ours, what do you mean? Because I tell you what I hear, and correct me if I'm wrong, I hear you saying as a black man that it's yours because you're black and African, and therefore it's your decision, and because I am white, and many of the people that are fighting for this with me are white or coloured, and some of them are black, that somehow this isn't our decision, this is your decision. Bugger off! Bugger off, you're a racist arsehole. What on earth makes you think that you can say that? If I said that to you, you would be deeply offended. On what basis do you think that you can say that to us?
Now, another disrespect, and this speaks to our immigration. There is this white guy called Phil Craig. Phil Craig, who is going to start a new party called the Referendum Party. Phil Craig says that he's been in South Africa for 20 years and he's forming a party because it is a time for revolution. This guy comes from wherever he comes from and comes and tries to break up our country. This Phil Craig guy. One of the things that must be enforced in our immigration, it is not to allow people to form political parties who have been here for a short while. They come and destroy what we have. Phil Craig says that being called racist and things like that. I wanna send this message to Phil Craig. Listen here, Phil Craig. There is no referendum that is gonna take place here. You are an immigrant. You might have been a citizen, and your citizenship must actually be questioned. How you became a citizen here, you Phil Craig. We will not have a referendum here trying to split us up and make your own country out of Cape Town. Cape Town is part and parcel of South Africa.
A British man by the name of Phil Craig launched a political party called the Referendum Party, right? Now, why am I saying a British man? Because he is British with a British accent. He does, however, have South African citizenship, right? Because you can only register a political party if you have citizenship. Now, in South Africa, like a lot of other countries, you can acquire citizenship in two ways. It's either one, you've been in the country for a specific period of time, or two, you have enough money to invest in the country and start businesses, and then you can acquire citizenship that way. So I don't know how this British man acquired citizenship, so it could be either or. That's one. So the Referendum Party is basically Cape independence. So a few years ago, the same gentleman, Phil Craig, had pushed the movement for Cape independence, which was for Cape Town or the Western Cape to become an independent country. So what that means is that I have family in Cape Town, right? And I have family in the Northwest. I have family in the Northern Cape, right? Right now, we are all South African citizens. If they are able to get this going and separate the Western Cape from South Africa, then my family in Cape Town will now have a different nationality, and it will require me to have a passport and apply for a visa in order for me to now go to Cape Town or visit any of my family members in the Western Cape, right? Because they want to have their own country in the Western Cape.
These people who want Western Cape to become an independent state, they must know that it will not happen, because their right-wing coalition will not govern the Western Cape. Their right-wing coalition will not govern South Africa. We are going to govern South Africa, and Western Cape will not be an independent state. They must not try the government of the EFF, because we know what soldiers are used for. And when we are in charge of South Africa and anyone wants to take chances with the Western Cape, that person will meet the might of the state, because there's no one who's going to turn this province into a colony. This province is part of South Africa, and EFF in Saldanha Bay demonstrated that everything else that is done in South Africa shall be done in the Western Cape, because Western Cape and South Africa is one thing.
I decided that I couldn't care less if people wanted to call me racist. I'm not going to be bullied into silence by a mob who haven't worked out yet that they are the racists and not me. I will answer to God and to my conscience for my actions. But as for the mob, the louder they scream, the more I like it. It just means that my words have found their target. I say all of this because when I talk about the Western Cape's borders, a lot of people are going to get very upset.
Now, a few months ago, in June, I think, the DA had pushed for a specific bill that was similar to Cape Independence, but they did not paint it as Cape Independence. They said that they were looking for the autonomy to rule the Western Cape in a manner that does not allow the ANC government to interfere with certain things. Now, keep in mind that provincial governments actually have a lot of power, right? But if they are a federal state, because they were requesting for an independent state, which is similar to a federal state, it means that they have the say in import, export, trading licenses, whether or not certain people can come into the country. They cannot. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that they are able to have a say over, right? And people said no, right? That was the DA. When you go to the DA's website and when you read the DA's manifestos and a lot of what it is that they've been speaking about, they've been pushing towards a federal state as well. Whether or not they structure it in that manner that they're looking for an independent state or a federal state is not, that's not the question. They are looking for that. They just don't know how to say it, right? Because they do have a large enough following that could argue that. So now you've got the referendum party and you've got the DA. So what I did is I went on to the referendum party's website, and their agenda is one agenda and one only, and that is for the Western Cape to become a country. That's it. That's all they speak about. They speak about how they are going about this. They even say that DA supporters, all they need to do is vote for them, because that vote is as good as a vote for the DA. Now, what that tells me is that these two political parties have formed an alliance. And through that, they are looking to push for the Western Cape's independence.
But it's time that we have this conversation. This is a conversation that's already taking place at dinner tables, braais, school functions, in bars, and at pretty much every other meeting place in the Western Cape. And it's now time for us to have this conversation in public. Even without the howls of racism, provincial migration is a difficult conversation because different groups of people have different legitimate rights, and sometimes those rights come into conflict with each other. The character of the Western Cape is changing, and it's changing illegally. The rights of the Western Cape people are literally being trampled on, and rather than preventing this abuse, the national government is all but encouraging it. Why? Because South Africa isn't a country which actually believes in non-racialism. So instead, it is a country which believes in African nationalism. The majority of South Africans believe that South Africa belongs to Africans, and by this, they mean black Africans. Other races are at best tolerated and at worst are subject to the relentless racial abuse which very few are willing to call out as the racism which it truly is. 371 years ago, Jan van Riebeeck and 90 others landed in Cape Town and established a settlement. Today, this act would be illegal, but in 1652 it was not. He acted within the laws of his time. Despite this, the many coloured and white descendants who can trace their lineage back 15 generations to these early settlers are still vilified, called land thieves, and told to go home. In contrast, over the last few years, nearly 1 million people have broken the law and illegally settled land in the Western Cape. They are quite literally land thieves, but nobody would dare to use this term. Helen Ziller is still regularly lambasted for having had the audacity to use the word refugees more than a decade ago. The truth is that ordinary Western Cape people are furious about this illegal encroachment on their historical territory, which has irreparably harmed their environment, robbed them of resources, increased crime levels, and in conjunction with government policy, greatly disadvantaged them in the workforce. 30% of the current Western Cape population was not born here. Those migrating to the province do so in the pursuit of a better life, and there is nothing wrong with this whatsoever. I'm certainly not going to judge anyone for wanting to move to the Western Cape. For the record, I am one of the 30%. Those who take responsibility for their own future should be applauded and not condemned, but they must do so legally. Illegal land invasions extract a huge toll from the communities they affect, and it simply is not fair on those who are already here legally. At the referendum party, we propose, subject to the will of the Western Cape people, that the Western Cape closes its border with South Africa and implements strict immigration protocols which are non-racial and in line with international norms. Regardless of their race, all people must be welcome to come to the Western Cape, but they must do so legally and in a manner which enhances the quality of life for existing Western Cape citizens as opposed to causing them harm and distress. Our purpose at the referendum party is to create the conditions which will allow the Western Cape people to fulfil their potential, which will then result in the creation of a first world country at Africa's southern tip. This is only possible through Cape independence.
So, after saying all this what he said, South African citizens started calling for his deportation. So an online petition was being signed by individuals for Phil Craig to be deported.
Yeah,
and
but
his answer to this was very arrogant, I feel. Let's just play the clip and then you come back and analyze.
Hi, it's Phil Craig from the Referendum Party, and I'm actually making this video at the behest of my wife. Many of you will have seen that there's been a petition doing the rounds calling for me to be deported from South Africa. I found the whole thing somewhat amusing. My wife said, look, you need to talk to people because a lot of your friends are concerned. And we have indeed sort of had many supporters reaching out and saying, what must we do? Must we? And the answer, of course, is just we must do nothing. It's a ridiculous notion. I'm not going to be deported. I'm not going anywhere. We're fighting for Cape independence. And as Gandhi said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And of course, this is just the sort of part of the fighting process. I get this sort of attention all of the time, and don't worry about it one little bit. And actually, it's probably worth just touching in here. So now at this number, I think there's somewhere around 26 or 27,000 votes so far. Just to put that into context, when we signed up and sent a petition to Alan Winde calling for a referendum on Cape independence, just in a week or so, we had 30,000 signatures. There's 840,000 people signed up with Cape Exit, saying they support Cape Independence. And our polling shows that the numbers of people in the Western Cape who support Cape Independence are well over 1 million. So really not really get too concerned about somebody who's decided to play the ball and to not play the man. And of course, what they're demonstrating is what I could have told you in the start, that there's a lot of people who are opposed to Cape Independence. And of course, that's exactly right. We're in a democracy. People are entitled to their views. We're entitled to our view.
So guys, you've seen what is happening. This guy called Phil Craig was originally born in Britain, but he migrated to South Africa and has been living there going on 20 years now, so he has acquired citizenship. But what makes it funny is that he's trying to divide South Africa. There's
a place called Western Cape, in South Africa. So he wants Western Cape to become an independent state, an independent nation, and divide from the whole of South Africa, you know, with him leading the political party that will bring forth these changes, you know.
So his idea is to divide South Africa, the Western Cape, from South Africa, such that those who live, people like him who live in the Western Cape, can have their own little country there.
They are exclusive and away from South Africa. And if you ask me why Craig is doing this, I'd say he's doing someone's bidding. Someone is behind all of this.
Just a question to South Africans. Do you think dividing the Western Cape from South Africa, do you think it's in your best interest? Guys, let us know in the comment section. Would you support that idea?
When most Africans are fighting for a borderless, visa-free movement of Africans into different countries, this white man called Phil Craig from Britain, or wherever he comes from in Europe, wants South Africa, a whole nation, South Africa, to be divided so that he can control the Western Cape, or his party or whoever is backing him can control the Western Cape, and South Africans can have the other rest of South Africa, you know.
You know what gets me is, you know, if it was coming, not that it's better, but if it was coming from a white man who was born in South Africa, you'd understand maybe that the sense of fighting for the home which he knows he's been born to maybe was in him. But this is a man who was originally born in Britain. If he feels so much an activist that there's something, he's fighting for a greater cause about something, why doesn't he go and
why does he need to divide a whole country so that he can have his own portion too? And mind you guys, this country that he wants, this province that he wants to become a country, this province has a seaport. Is it a seaport or an ocean port? Yes, so they'll be controlling that for themselves. It has gas, natural gases, and I think him as a business person, he sees the potential of this town. That's why he wants it as a country, so that, you know, automatically if he's leading the party that wants that to be divided, he's obviously going to run for presidency in that province if it becomes a country.
Yeah, and then another thing that really got me is when he was talking about Western Cape becoming its own country away from South Africa, so that they can have control of the immigrants, those who can be able to come in and out, so that it can be controlled. Yeah,
I feel like he wants to limit black people from accessing that Western Cape. And originally, because he says his main reason, majority of people who support this move are colored people, white people, and then a few black people, which I find very funny, because as we're going to show you the picture of South Africa and also statistic of the Cape Town, people who are settled in the West Cape, majority of them is colored people. What do we mean by colored people? South Africans refer to as biracial people as colored people, right? So colored people are the highest settlers in Western Cape, and they are at 42% in population, right? And then followed by black people who are 39%, and then from them the white people come third with 16% of population, and then lastly Indians and Asians have 1% of the population, you see. So the white people aren't even a majority of settlers in Western Cape, yet he says that they're the most supportive when it comes to this move they want to make. If you're from Western Cape and you agree with Craig, please let us know why you agree with him. But if you don't agree with him, please let us also know why you don't agree with him, because his move, according to me, I'm from Kenya, it reminds me of the colonial era, how white people came and they separated Africans and they divided what countries to what countries and put up barriers, to be quite honest, you know.
Another thing Craig says, he talks about Africans being racist when they say, you know, Africa belongs to Africans, and they talk of only the black Africans. I mean, how else are we?
Original settlers of Africa, that is not even to be debated, were Africans, black Africans. How did white South Africans end up in South Africa to begin with? They weren't just born there, they immigrated there. The Dutch settlers, they settled there.
Yeah, it's like right now saying, because he says that, you know, they also have rights that black Africans have no right or have no reason to say that South Africa is only for the black people.
It's just like what happens in America.
Yeah, it's like saying you take black Americans, and forgive me if it might come off as being an insult. It's like right now we say now black Americans say that they own America, you know.
And time and again, white people usually just tell them to black Americans so bad and tell them to go back to Africa.
Exactly. So, and in Africa, there's a place in Africa now white people are trying to say
it is their
own home,
especially this white person who is not an original inborn South African.
So you picture this. What about a South African telling a European guy to go back to Europe? What about that? Because they have all the right to do so. So what about that? You know,
I feel like Craig is doing someone's bidding. Someone is backing him up, and he is already sure that he's going to win on this matter and all that.
But he's not even shaken about the deportation
petition.
But then we've seen the petition, and a lot of people have come out to sign the petition, especially Africans. They've come out to sign the petition, but even that doesn't scare Phil. He's like, you know,
they're not going to do anything.
If people are protesting against this, I like it because it means I'm touching a nerve. He's very arrogant about it. The way he words things, the way his demeanor in general is very, you know, very, very arrogant. So it's like he knows nothing will happen to him, because South Africans were asking if a petition is being signed, and the votes have even passed Craig's vote of trying to put up a political party. Why is that guy still in South Africa? Why have they not deported him yet for trying to pull a stunt like that?
We'll be following closely this case, and we'll let you know how the results will come out in the end. But South Africans, please, I would really just like to know your opinion on this. But personally, I wouldn't allow this to happen if I had the power and it was happening in Kenya. It's like someone coming, you know, a foreigner coming, and then they start suggesting, let's separate Mombasa from Kenya so that you can control what comes in and out of Mombasa. You know, it will make, because Kenyans who have family in Mombasa but live in different parts of Kenya, like let's say Nairobi, Kisumu and whatnot, they will need a visa, not even a visa or a passport to go to Mombasa, whereas right now we can freely move. If you have an ID, you can freely move to Mombasa. You know what I mean? So this guy's move is going to affect a lot of South Africans, especially those who share family ties in Western Cape,
especially economically, even to just the freedom of movement. You know, they won't have that freedom, because that is literally what he's suggesting.
He wants to limit freedom of movement. People who can get the kind of people. It's just that he can't come out and say we don't want black people in Western Cape. But to me, that is the literal interpretation of what he's trying to do. You know, but he's trying to secure that Western Cape for white settlers and all that.
You guys, let us know what you think about this, because especially South Africans, because that is how it starts. You know,
that's how it starts.
That is how it starts. Because if you look at Western Cape and you see why these people are fighting for Western Cape, it has all the best things. You know, it has good things that if they manage to take control of that part of the country,
they're going to milk that Western Cape dry. Because right now, my biggest question is, this guy comes from Europe, right? Why doesn't he go and liberate Europe from whatever he is trying to liberate Western Cape from?
Why there's a lot of immigrants who are going into Britain right now. He could as well go there and try
form
and
a political party there and limit their movement there.
Exactly. Why is he trying to limit movement in Africa, where he is the immigrant himself,
enjoying privileges of him being in Africa, because life is more
affordable in Africa. But you guys, you don't want to rant so much. You let us know what you think about this video on the comment section. Keep an eye on our community tab. We'll be following this case closely so that you can know the end result or outcome. South Africans, we beg you, don't allow this to happen. I know you know best and you know better. So
Africa should become united, not divided, and certainly not by an individual called Craig White from wherever. You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you've not subscribed to our channel, please kindly remember to do so, and we'll see you on our next episode.